Well, all right, here we are once again. I am Pastor B, and this is the kitchen table. You know, this is the place where great things happen. We chop it up, break it down, and put it back together again. And I told you all this month I've been dealing with Black family issues. I say all families have issues, but there's things that are uniquely pertinent to our families. And we've been trying to dig deep about those issues. And we started last week of talking about our educational issues, but that was so exhaustive, so expansive. There's no way we can just talk about all that in just 1 week. So we have been blessed to have these wonderful educators who've been in the trenches of education, and they're still surviving and thriving, and they want us to do the very same thing. We have Sister Vicki Kimball, and we have Dr. Holliday with us also. You say hello again to the kitchen table.
Hello, kitchen table. Glad to be here.
Good. Hello, kitchen table. Again, glad to be here. Thank you.
Hey, man. Thank you, ladies, so much. Last time we were together, we were turning over the stone. We were moving the rocks and talking about what's really buried beneath those rocks. That there are some things that have been systematically instituted that really lead to the very demise of our families. We said last time, we're not making excuses. None of us are. We're just calling it what it really is. And so you guys did a wonderful job last time talking about the actual numbers of people who are in education right now for the African descent, how many males there are. And even I thought it was so great what you said, that so many times when males do come into the system, they immediately put them into these areas in which they more or less just want to be the police on campus. They don't really get to teach. They're just trying to keep the problem children, if I could call them that, the problem kids under control. And that causes such a disparity in what transpires. And it's a loss of great talent and resources as well. And so is there anything else you guys want to summarize from our last time together? Because I want to get into solutions tonight. Is there anything that we need to summarize from last time that you'd like to say more on?
No, Dr. Holliday, you want to take that one?
Well, I think, I think it's just important to realize that we have to remember to decenter whiteness in our curriculum. We have to understand what systemic racism looks like. And that means that, we think about who's writing our curriculum, who even writes, the books that we read, predominantly publishers, and this is research-based, is predominantly not of African-American descent. We think about even the characters, and of course I come from a literacy background. We think about even the characters in books, and more so than having characters who are Black or, of African descent, we see characters who are white, who are even aliens and other and all these different things. So just thinking about, again, it's really, like you said, it's systemic. So I'm excited to just talk about ways that we can address those systemic issues. Yeah.
I was telling my wife the other day is that thinking back on my childhood, I was always a reader, always around libraries, just always. But I think back, you talk about characters. Some of the characters we had were people like old John Henry. Old John Henry, somebody who worked on a railroad. He was always this day laborer who was a big, massive man, but all he did was just use his muscle, never depict him using his brain. Or either you had someone who was working inside maybe one of the homes or whatever like that, but their language, their dialect was so fractured, so splintered. It was so, the splitting of verbs was just so prevalent, and it didn't appear they had any educational acumen. And so those were some of the characters that I remember. You didn't see people who were articulate. You didn't see people who were not using their body but using their minds. So I like what you said about who's telling our stories. What are the stories we hear? What do we see? And so saying that, because you ladies have over 70 years of experience in the educational system, where do we start? How do we begin down the path of restoration? How do we begin to kind of reverse the curve that's currently going? I can't wait to hear from you. Ms. Vicki?
Okay, I wanted to say that first of all, I thought about this quote. This is the end of Black History, but every day is Black History for us.
Yeah.
And that's something that we need to let our kids know about. It's not just we got more than Martin Luther King, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the first person that comes to their mind.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about the quote from Frederick Douglass, and it said, "It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." That's think about that. And then in that I came across another one of these quotes that I didn't know, was that once you learn to read, we're going to hit this literacy thing tonight, because this is where one of our, I'm going to say about 40% of our problems with our kids and not being able to read. Once you learn to read, you will be forever free.
Yes.
Yeah.
Forever free.
Yeah.
And that was just so powerful to me when I ran across that today, because reading is fundamental and it is essential. And I'm going back to what I said originally, because I had time to think about it, that it has to start in the home. It has to start in the home. Like Dr. Holliday said, we got to put books in the home. You need to read to your children. You need to make education a priority. We've come across it because everybody think they can be a YouTube sensation, or they're gonna be LeBrons, and it's only a certain percentage. So it's important that our parents let our kids know that that reading is fundamental, and they need to be able to read, because we can tell our own stories now. Now we got the movies with Harriet Tubman. People are telling our own stories, but to tell these stories, you got to be able to read. You got to be able to write. And so, and even with our books, we do have Black books for our children with some of us in them, but it's not enough. But if the trend we're going for, the illiteracy rate, I don't know how long, like you said, 10 or 20 years from now, what we're gonna have. We got to get back to the fundamentals of reading, and the parents taking responsibility, like Dr. Holliday said, working with the teacher, know what's going on in the curriculum. You know, you can go in Texas, they got, I don't know about other states, but they got the teach. So you don't have to depend on the school to send you what your child's supposed to be learning. They got books that what fifth grader supposed to have, what the second grade. So the parent, you use the technology for everything else. You on YouTube, TikTok, and all that. Get on the internet, look at the curriculum from the teachers, what your child should be learning, and get involved.
Okay, Ms. Vicky, stay there for a moment, because I want to just kind of just make this a little more practical. What does it look like for a parent in the home teaching their child to read? What does that look like?
Well, first of all, you know, you don't have to wait until they get 5 years old. Like I said, put books in on the coffee table, magazines, you know what I'm saying? So they'll be aware of reading materials. And then take the time out to read to your child at night before you go to bed, or a part of after dinner, whatever. Sit down and it'll take for 15 minutes. They, you know, you can read to them until they start reading. They read a page, you read a page, then you can check for understanding, like we talked about. So you can start there. And it's so expensive. You can go check out books at the library. I know that's, everybody gets stuff online, Audible and all that. But you can go at Dollar Tree, 99-cent store. They have these books. Some places have them 2 for $1. So it's not nothing that's not attainable that you can't do because you can't afford a 50-cent book, because we're affording other things. That's the only thing I'm saying.
I agree with Dr. Holliday. How has social media, we're in an age now in which these kids come out the womb almost now, they know how to text and email. How has that helped us, and also how has it hurt us?
I think it helps us because it opens the doors to different places and people and things, even things like TikTok. You know, there are videos there that can be very educational. I have a new grandson, and my daughter actually found some videos on TikTok that depicted Black people, a little Black boy, a little Black girl, and they were singing. And my grandson, he's only 2 months, but he loved it. So I think we have to be discerning in terms of what we look at on social media, but there are some good things there. On the flip side, as I said, we have to be discerning. So we can't just sit our students or our children in front of, social media or say, go on this, go on that. We have to really be mindful in terms of what we allow them to access. And just kind of going back to what you had asked earlier in terms of just those practical tips for literacy, I love what Vicki said in terms of having parents just read to your children. And it doesn't have to, like Vicki said, start at 5. Read to them while they're in the womb. Talk to them, have conversations, read to them then. And then use things like environmental print. All kids can recognize McDonald's, Whataburger. That's reading. When they recognize those things, praise them for that. Continue to have, like we talked about last week, conversations with your children, and use words that you may think that are above their level, but again, that's building their vocabulary. So, just that reading piece, reading to them every day, using that environmental print. When you're at the grocery store, showing them this is a banana. What does it start with? Let's talk about that letter, having them write a list. So all those types of things are things that parents can do practically and don't cost them any money. So
that's great. Thank you. That is really, that's just the ABCs of reading is fundamental. That is profound. What do we do with the parent who's saying, I wish I would have known this when my child was.
I didn't hear the question.
Okay, it kind of froze up.
Yes, it froze a little bit.
Okay. Let me try it again. I said, what do you do with the parent who says, I wish I would have known this when my child was 5, 6, or 7, but now my child is a freshman in high school and they've been socially promoted since elementary school. What do I do with my child?
I think it's important first to find out what your child likes, because there are ways that we can get into literacy based on their interests. So they may really enjoy cars. So find a magazine about cars, find books about cars, and really hit that interest level. There's actually studies out that show that children, if you use their background knowledge, so if you use what they already know and are interested in, their comprehension of particular texts is higher than if you have them read something they know nothing about. So really, hone in on their interests, and that will help them in terms of just, their comprehension of text. And again, use those same types of techniques. If a student is really struggling with reading, think about those foundational pieces. Sometimes just going back to basics of what does this letter say? What does it sound like? It sounds elementary, but those are the skills that particular child may need. So
that is great. That is so great to hear. Go back to where their natural bent or orientation is, and start there. This is Vicki.
I want to say, you talk about.
We can't hear you, Vicki.
Can't hear me. I think you muted yourself. Can you say it again? Okay, can't hear you right now, Miss Vicki.
Your sound just went out. That was so strange.
Yeah, your sound just went out, Miss Vicki.
Okay, what about now?
Good, great.
Okay, so I kind of researched, and I knew of some of them, but since the kids, everybody's online, they have resources like Khan Academy, which is KHAN Academy, that the parent can register, the child can register. It's aligned with the state, each state. It's from, I think it's from pre-K up to the PSAT and everything, and the child can practice these. It acts as a tutor for your child. And the child can, once he creates his own account, he can go in and he can practice. Say if the teacher taught geometry and he didn't understand the patterns and everything. So he can go in, type in his grade level, type in the skill set, and they will show him how to work the problem. So it really serves as a tutorial. It gives him pre-test and post-test. It charts, the parent can chart it too. So we got the technology, so let's use it to our advantage. It's another program called Imagine Learning. And this program costs, they have some free resources, but it's like $50 a year for the math, $150 a year for the the reading. However, people say, well, I can't afford that. But think about this. Parents are affording the PlayStation, the Xbox. See, it's misplaced priority. We're talking about putting education up first. So you a game is $50 and $60 to play these games, right? And now they got it where you can get the card, buy a GameStop card. I bought one for my grandson. They download it, and then you can renew it. So what I'm saying is that they are spending money elsewhere. Right. But we have to return to make education a priority. So $50 a year, they say, well, I don't want to be able to pay. But that's the mentality. Everything is not free. But we're buying everything else. But we need to refocus. That's all I'm saying about that. And so they have these, even for primary kids, they got circle time. They got all of these things that the kids can use. They even got something called Miss Rachel. And then for the older kids, it's Dr. Bianco's. And they got Miss Monica, Table Time, Bounce Patrol. So since you have those little leapfrog tablets and everything, let's put the educational programs on there and let them use technology. They are, trained for that. They come out, you walk around, and like I said in the store, you see them with those little, and they, so let's put the educational programs on and let's make technology work to our advantage. And there was another program for teenagers I wanted to bring forth. It's called, this is awesome. This is called BigHouse.org. This is where a group of Black men from Dallas and Fort Worth, it's like a mentorship. They developed this website and organization online to help young, especially Black males, navigate the college educational system. How do you prepare for college? Take away the fears. They have people donating, and they go through that and they can get scholarships. So we do have some things that are available to us to help us come out of this hole that we're in.
Risa, if you could, Vicki, can you say the name one more time of that organization out of Dallas? What is the name of it again?
This is called BigThought.org. B-I-G Thought, THOUGHT.
Okay, Big Thought.
O-R-G.
Awesome.
Okay, Big Thought. Oh, that's awesome. So there's a multitude of resources available.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And if you Google just free, reading programs online, there, things will come up. freereading.net. There are several that are available for parents to use.
You guys have been educators and administrators for so long. At some point in time, you had to come across a parent or two who did not feel themselves proficient enough in reading to teach their children. What do you say to those parents? Because there's parents watching right now, and they're saying, I struggle sometimes with subject and verb agreement. I struggle sometimes with just reading. That's why images are so important. Now we can watch these images, don't really have to read anything. But how do you encourage that parent who maybe have their own issue with self-confidence and just feeling just inadequate themselves?
That's a great question. I think that we need to just remind parents that whatever they have to give is going to be beneficial to their child. You know, if they sit and they do storytelling with their child, that's still part of literacy.
That's
You know,
good.
making up stories, looking at pictures, and you know, just having those conversations with their child is very important. I think that just making them and reminding them that, again, their story, you know, whatever they say and whatever they do is important. My dad only had a third grade education, but he talked to me about everything. You know, we
Yeah,
had
yeah.
conversations. He was an extremely articulate man. You know, and he really didn't have any issues, you know, just telling me about things and talking to
Yeah,
me. And I
yeah.
learned a lot from him. So just because you can't necessarily read a book doesn't mean you can't impart knowledge
That's
to
good.
your
Yeah,
child.
yeah. Amen. Amen.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I didn't get a chance to say that, but we have within our own families, grandparents, great aunts that we can expose our kids to. They go over, but let's have story time.
Yeah.
Let them tell about what they went through as a young adult and how they overcome. And those are all things that build literacy, right?
Exactly.
And understanding. So we can start within our own family. And I thought about this for professional. You remember they have to take your daughter to school day, take your child. But guess what? We can do it within our own families. We don't have to wait on anybody. Because if you sit down to one family and you get 20 people, I bet you at least got 10 of them are some kind of professional.
Yeah.
If it's cutting hair, let them go and see. You start the day off early. You got to put in this. You got to calculate your money. I mean, we have professionals in our own family. And it don't have to necessarily be a doctor or a lawyer. We probably got some of those, but the ones that we do have.
Right. Amen. Yeah.
Expose our kids. Exposure is a big thing. Let our kids understand there is something else that you can do. You don't have to have those basic, job professions we think of. It's manufacturing is good, right?
Yes, right.
Somebody have to put, I gave that illustration. Your McDonald's, that little red box they put the kids' meal in. But guess what? Somebody got to make that box.
Right.
Somebody got to make
and
that
that's
box.
A skill. That's a skill.
They buy $5 billion of those boxes every year. 5 something billion. Somebody's manufacturing those. Some of our kids are good with their hands.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Right. So it's not all of the creative, critical thinking, but we want to teach those skills.
That's good to hear. If
that's not you like she said, what are their interests are? If you like cars, get books about cars. These service jobs, that's where I'm not gonna say that's where these other people are moving on up. And they are creating generational wealth. That's another thing we got to talk about. They are creating generational wealth. I had my house redone for the last year, and I do believe in supporting our own people, but the person I had to come was from somebody else. And guess what? He brought his daughter, 19 years old, going to school at Sanders Center. And when she came in, I said, "Oh, you want to sit down and watch TV?" She said, "Oh no, I work." 19 in there, taking out that sheetrock, redoing my whole bathroom. So we got to take our kids with us to work. And when you go, they speak English for their dad. The parents don't have to took it to the son. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He translated to his daddy, did the calculation, printed out the invoice. We got to get back to that.
That's a whole different mindset from going from being a consumer to a producer. That's what you're talking about. Not just being consumed, because we have resources in our community.
Right.
But so many were used for consumption, not for production. We're always buying from somebody else.
Yes.
And that's what you address. I love how you ladies are dealing with the issue of the primary onus is on the house, on the family. That's what you're really saying.
Yes.
There's resources available, opportunity available. There's great stories available. There's people who've done it, and it doesn't have to be the traditional formalized education we're saying, because education is broader than that.
Exactly.
But here's my question. That's the power we have at the house. What power do we have when it comes to the schoolhouse?
Well, I put this statement, I thought about it. We have what I call, let me just make sure, because I wrote it down to make sure I wouldn't forget it. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Holliday. We have a default belief that we place everything on the public school. Drop them off, that's it. I know we pay our taxes. But no, we need, I'm going to say we need to get involved. Join the PTO. If they don't have one, you can start one.
Start one.
Right?
Right.
You can start one. And so, like Dr. Holliday, pick up on that, because you talked about that last time, getting to know the teacher, building relationships with the teacher. And I know I'm going back, but I want to just hit this right quick, because I know we run out of time. And I took a new course this Sunday, and I kind of knew this. But I want to say this on this podcast for parents, because our kids are having problems with behaviors and all this stuff due to lack of reading. But if there is no discipline, if there is no relationship. So when you spend time reading with your child when he's young, before he go to bed, you building relationship, you talking to him. You're not just everybody on their own thing. That's how you'll be able to navigate and understand. You know, I used to say, how was school today? What did you do today? Ask questions. Dr. Holliday, will you piggyback on that?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Absolutely. That building relationships is extremely important. Those interactions, I mean, that's really the foundation of, what education is, having those great relationships. And back to your question, Pastor, I just thought of 3 things that I want to share just in terms of the educational system. And I call them the 3 A's: awareness, advocacy, and alignment. And when we think about awareness in terms of education, we want to know we really need to know, what does racism look like in the educational system? So we need to make sure that we have an understanding of what implicit bias looks like, what microaggressions looks like, so that we can address those things. We also want to be aware and know our own history and share that with our children. And we talked about ways to do that with our elders, telling stories. That is priceless. I mean, it is absolutely important. Advocacy. We want to make sure that we teach our students, our children, self-advocacy. Advocate for yourself. Don't wait for somebody else to do it. If something doesn't sound right in your classroom, ask a question about it. Advocate for yourself. That leads to empowerment. We also want to be able to support each other. So think about joining Facebook groups. We talked about using social media. There are Facebook groups out there for moms. We have one in our particular subdivision. It's for Black moms. So do those things. There's a group out called Mocha Moms. So join these groups. And of course, we have the NAACP. And lastly, that whole idea of alignment, partnerships. Be a partner with the people who are educating your child: teachers, principals, interventionists, counselors. Be a partner so that you can ensure that your culture, our culture, is represented within that curriculum and in terms of that instruction. So awareness, advocacy, and alignment.
Amen. 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 There's some parent watching right now, or some grandparent, and they're thinking about the school board. Okay. Because you talked about advocacy and alignment for sure. So how does someone go about? They say, maybe I need to go a little further than PTO. I may need to get on the school board. What's the process for becoming a member of the school board?
I believe here in Texas, in this area of Fort Bend, you have to be elected to the school board. Okay. Is that correct, Vicki? That's my understanding.
You have to run. It's an office that you have to run for. But the best way is to get it. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, you bring up a good point, though, in terms of school board. Watch those school board meetings. I know Fort Bend school board meetings are broadcast on their website. So if you are interested in what is going on within the school on that higher level, tune into those meetings. The public is allowed to attend those meetings. So attend. If you have questions, ask questions. I think it is so important, as Vicki said earlier, for us to be involved. We can't just sit on the sidelines and say, well, I don't like this, I don't like that. We need to be involved. And that involvement, again, goes back to that alignment, partnering. So not only are we partnering with our teachers and administrators on that campus, but we're also looking at those school board members. They are elected by us. So in essence, they work for us. So we can ask them questions, you know, and then that PTA, again, that's Parent Teacher Association or Parent Teacher Organization. It's a partnership. So asking those questions and making sure that we're involved and running for the school board. If there's something that someone desires to do it. Absolutely.
Amen. 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 Because I'm always thinking about that power base. Where's the power base?
Yes.
We know we got the state of Texas is where we are. In the state of Texas, you know, the education, but we got local, we got school boards.
Yes.
And so many times we're not aware of decisions that are being made because we're not at the table.
Exactly.
Yeah, you got to be at the table.
And we have to know
to be at the table.
who we're voting for these elections. You know, I was guilty of it as a young parent. I don't need to go to the school board elections. Oh, I don't need to do this. But I think back to my mom. I grew up in New York, and I remember my mother taking me to vote in every single election there was. And I remember being a little girl, and she would take, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, you know, she's always, and she walked, she couldn't drive. And we would walk to wherever, you know, the election was being held. But I was thinking about that yesterday when I voted. And, you know, our vote is extremely important. That is the way our voice is heard, not only for presidential elections or gubernatorial elections, but those school board elections, because they are setting policy, and we really need to know, you know,
and they're doing registering, and you know, they rezoning, they do the rezoning and all that stuff. And like you said, we're not at the table. We look up what happened too late. Oh, and you know, so that is so very, very important that we get involved in that.
Ladies, you have done an awesome job of just, opening our awareness, opening our lens, not to be so myopic about, you know, just my little Johnny. There's a bigger agenda here at work. And also we should have a bigger agenda at work. And that's what I hear you saying. I want to give you the last word. That you've got an opportunity to encourage some parent right now who's been on the fence, not about their child being educated. They want their child to get educated to the highest level possible, but they've been on the fence regarding their participation in that process. So I want to give you the last word about what would you say to that overworked parent or that misprioritized parent, or maybe some grandparent who's just, this is the third set of grandkids they may have raised.
That is so true.
and they're tired.
Yeah.
What do you say to them? I'll give you the final word. You got the floor. Dr. Holiday, and then we'll close out Ms. Vicki.
I would say that just for them to remember that they are their child's very first teacher. They are the ones that are going to have the biggest influence on their child. Everything that they say or do, they are a model for their child. So think about, and that parent out there, they love their child. They want to do everything they can to make sure that that child is successful. So out of that love, you want to remember you are that child, your child's very first teacher, and you want to do everything you can to make your child successful. And we appreciate you here in the education system.
Amen. And so, amen. Ms. Vicki, you got the final word.
I want to say the statistics, this is the thing about probably about 40-50% of our children all over the state are raised by grandparents and great grandparents. And I've dealt with that. So as she said, don't be afraid to ask what you don't know. Because like she said, you can start something in the neighborhood. Hey, did your child, my child can't read, but he got an A. What's really going on with that? Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
How can you talk about a ninth grade? We got fifth, sixth, seventh grade kids reading on second grade level, and they just been promoted. How did that happen?
How did that happen? That's right. That's right.
So they got to answer some questions at the school board or principal or somebody, you know. So don't be afraid to ask questions, and that is your child for the rest of your life. Yeah. You can't. Some people can divorce them, you know what I'm saying? It was, you know, but basically you can't divorce your child.
Right.
And if we don't give them the help they need now, it's gonna cost us, it's gonna catch us down the road.
Down the road, that's right.
Down the road, either in death, in prison, and I know that's drastic, but the bottom line for us, it's a reality.
It's a reality.
Look at what we see on the TV, who's doing all the robbing and the killing.
Yeah.
It's the majority of it is our young Black males.
Yeah.
Who can't read, who dropped out, who feel lost. And then when you go, the parents go visit the prison. They visiting, they sending money. So we got to stop it now. So don't be afraid. Ask for help. It's help out here. Amen. Don't be afraid to ask.
Don't be afraid of it. Amen. Wow, kitchen table. I know a lot of things you've heard have made you celebrate. A lot of things that you have heard also may have made you want to cry for a minute too. But they have brought us the facts of where we are and also what we can do, because there is hope through Christ, through community, through us putting our nose to the grind. There is hope. And I'm saying wherever you may have been, maybe you can't go back and retrieve the past, but you're still in the present and you can go to the future. And so I want to encourage you to take this to heart, share with your family, sit down as a family together and just review this podcast and just talk about some strategies that we're going to implement. We're going to make a difference for here and for eternity's sake. So I thank God for your kitchen table. I tell your mom and them, your dad and them, I thank God for our wonderful Miss Vicky. Thank you for Dr. Holliday. You guys have hit a home run and letting us hear not only what is, but what can be. And so we thank God for you. So may God bless you. May God keep you. Kitchen table. I'll see you next Friday right here at the kitchen table.